This right here is my friend Katie Pooler. She's a 5-0 plus player. She's played in some pro events. She often, even when she's playing with men, will play the left side because of her ferociously powerful forehand. She just knows how to rip it, whether it's off the ground, out of the air. If she gets a ball that's just kind of sitting there, it's going to get punished, and the other team is going to have a lot of trouble handling that shot. Even if they do get their paddle on it, it's just going to be probably a weak reply unless they can at least get it down and deep, which is probably the best they can do with that shot, and it's probably coming hard again. So today I want to cover exactly how you can generate massive power like this on your forehand. Anyone can achieve massive forehand power if they know the mechanics of how that gets done, and if they get to work on implementing that into their forehand mechanics. So we're going to break down Katie's forehand step by step. So first thing here is the initial turn, which we call the unit turn. All right, so what do we notice here? She has her hands together as she turns. So she turns her two shoulders together. Often I see people in this position just from here, just take their paddle back. So they'll keep their shoulders like this and just reach back with their arm and send their paddle back that way. Notice how that's not what Katie does here. She turns. Okay. Let's pause it right here at the end of your unit turn. You can see she still has her non-dominant hand, her left hand on the paddle. You'll see many players with big forehands do that. They'll keep those two hands together until the absolute last moment after the turn, when they release and let this paddle come back just a bit further, not too much further. Remember, we're not reaching back this way, but we do let it go, and it goes a little bit back further, and we'll talk more about that. So notice how her hips are turned at this point, but her shoulders are more turned. Okay, that is one of the keys to getting a massive forehand, is to get these shoulders more turned. I often see people have their hips and their shoulders parallel. You do not want that. You need to get these shoulders around. You need to get the hips around too, but the shoulders more so than the hips. That's key to get a good initial coil and what we call separation between the shoulders and the hips. That is very important to do, and most of that gets done in this initial move. Notice how her eyes are tracking the ball. She has a pretty wide base in her feet that is slightly open. Her shoulders are relaxed. I do see a lot of people kind of get their shoulders pinched towards their ear, especially when they initiate the swing later. This whole move is just a very relaxed yet well-timed turn to get set up for the swing. So again, we call this the unit turn. So here's the second part of her big forehand, which a lot of things are happening here. She's finishing up her coil, then sends this elbow forward along with the shoulder turn, along with the hips releasing. And notice how this paddle lags back right there. Okay, so let's pause at that move. We'll go into it slow-mo. Notice how her elbow goes forward. Notice how her paddle lays back, right? And she's very relaxed. So all the pros do this. Her paddle's pointed somewhat this way. She's very relaxed in her shoulder and her arm. She then sends this forward, all while uncoiling her shoulders and her hips, which will help her send that elbow and that shoulder swinging around. And then the paddle and the wrist right here, they get left behind. That's what's called the lag. The key to ripping fast forehands is to get the fastest paddle speed going through the ball at the time of contact. You want to transfer as much energy onto that ball. And this lag that happens, this paddle being allowed to retract back from the looseness and the stretch in this forearm when she propels everything else forward, causes that paddle to lag back, to relax back, and then it has to catch up with the rest of the body. So it slingshots forward and bang, right into contact. She's getting max speed right through this location here, which is ultimately roughly where she contacts the ball we'll see in a moment. And that unleashes a huge amount of forward propulsion into the ball. But as far as the swing goes, it's more of a rotational swing, but because of this lag and the explosion, we get a lot of power straight through that ball. Very briefly, we're headed directly through it, and all that energy is going straight here into the target ultimately where she's aiming at, whether that be cross court, down the middle, or down the line this way. Let's look at that lag and release into contact in full motion here. Lag and forward. Lag and relax. Boom. So this part of the swing that's happening here is the key part of how it ends up being so powerful. A lot of people are just arming it at this time, and they hike their shoulder into their ear, and then it's just everything goes badly. Here you can see the shoulder is down. It's like in the socket, and she's just swinging that arm freely, letting that paddle drop back and then release forward. That's hugely important. You have to allow it to happen. You can't force it to happen. Get out there and be relaxed as you possibly can be, and just let it go. If you're hitting the fence and the ball's going astray, don't worry about it. Keep letting it flow, keep letting it rip. You'll ultimately learn how to control it, but first you have to understand the feeling of this relaxed lag and release into contact. Okay, here's the end of the swing from just before contact, through contact, and the finish. Really, this is just the deceleration portion. After you've contacted, you can start letting that swing slow down and just let it go over your shoulders. There's nothing forced going on here. Everything's already happened. Notice the transfer of the weight from the back foot to that foot, and ultimately this foot's going to land here once we show the full swing again to catch the weight. Look at that rotation. So it's all about loading up really well, and that starts with the unit turn, and then just letting it rip with a relaxed motion, power assisted from the hip rotation and the shoulder release, and ultimately letting that paddle that lagged back snap through and really get fast through contact and then finish up and around. That's what it comes down to. So video yourself and then compare to what you see here. I'll now show the full motion so that you really have a good clip to compare it to. A nice and slow motion. Hands together, separate when it's time, and hit and relax. Here, release, get the paddle pointed that way, lag back, and snap through. Katie just has a very clean, modern forehand. This is the way that all the top players, for the most part, hit it. If there's any differences, it's just stylistic. They're all doing all the core things I talked about in terms of the separation of the angle of the hips and the shoulders, getting the paddle pointed that way after a unit turn, letting that paddle lag back, and then just letting it go forward, getting that elbow going forward, and everything just explodes into contact. You look at Ben Johns, you look at Anna Lee Waters, McGuffin, anybody, look at their forehand. All the key fundamentals talked about in this video are present for them as well. If you're enjoying this video, please go ahead and subscribe to this channel so that you don't miss out on any future videos as they come out. Also, please go ahead and give this video a like and ring that notification bell. When you engage with the video, it definitely helps us get this information out more broadly to more people, and we appreciate it. Thanks so much. Okay, here we're going to talk about some footwork pattern differences. This is the forehand we've been looking at up until now. Didn't really have to move. It kind of came more or less right in her vicinity. From the split step, she'll turn and plant this foot and then transfer her weight into that foot. And the spacing between her back foot and contact between this shot and that shot will be as best as she can do it. Here she had to back up a little bit, pushes off this foot, does this little shuffle crossover step, plants this back foot here, and then turns and pivots again. Notice how it's all looking very similar. The only difference here is that she sent this foot back and then transferred to that foot, a little shuffle step before she does essentially the same thing. But here she had to back up and here she didn't. But look how everything else looks really similar. She had a slightly later contact here. But that's okay. The contact really can range anywhere from like here to there. So here it's a little later. Here it's a little more in front. Next here, we're going to look at movement when she had to go to the side. So in this case to her left, and in this case a little bit to her right. But notice after she gets there, everything is very similar, right? Very similar. So let's just talk quickly about some footwork adjustments here. Always the split step happens, always split step. She slides this foot back, slides back, and then just does a little bit of shuffling just to make sure she gets the right spacing. So Let's see it on slow-mo here again. Steps here, shift back, shift back, shift back, and shift back. So she just incrementally but quickly just gets her feet in position so that she can get this foot right where she wants, because that's the key leg to establish good spacing between you and the ball. You want that good spacing. Here, the spacing you'll see after she plants it. There, boom, to contact, it's roughly similar. So that's how you want to get your foot set. The same, so that your spacing from your back foot to the ball is the same, so that your motion can always then be the same and you can transfer your weight appropriately. In both cases, look, loads here, transfers there. Loads her weight here onto this foot and then rotates and transfers the weight there. This leg just naturally comes forward to catch her weight. After the transfer, it does the same thing here. Boom. It's a little less pronounced here. Load, transfer the weight, catch the weight here. And then split step again, boom, to get ready for the next shot. There's always a split step between each and every shot, whether it's big or small. That's how the best do it, so that they can get the absolute best positioning on each shot. All right, now let's take a look at the difference between the more in-place forehand ground stroke, which is this one, and the forehand swinging volley, where she moved up in the court to take that as a swinging volley. Look how the motions are not all that different. We'll just take a look at contact here. So what we see here is the lower contact after the bounce, and here she took it out of the air, so she was able to get it nice and high so that she can rip it more forward. Here she'll have to hit a little bit more up to clear the net, and she's of course further back in the court on this one, further up on this one. She can be more punishing here. I believe she hits a winner off of this one. This is the side view from the clips we saw at the very beginning, where she had a ground stroke followed by a finishing volley winner. On the ground stroke, you'll see that her stance is a little bit more open here because she really transferred a lot of weight forward. She has a more neutral stance. Her feet are in line with each other in this way, and here they're not. This is what we call like a semi-open stance, and this is what we call neutral, where her left foot steps directly forward from her right foot. Let's take a look at these in motion again. As you can see, all the same components are there. So hands together, we get the turn, we get the load, we get the coil, we get the lag. Let's see that lag, which is like the key to everything. Okay, here, you can see we get that paddle pointed to the side, right? And then there's the lag. As this comes forward and everything releases to get that paddle moving as fast forward as we possibly can. Boom, into contact, and the finish follow through. All right, love watching that forehand. It's a thing of beauty. So that's how you're gonna rip your forehands, whether they be on the ground or out of the air or moving left or moving right or moving back. That's you're gonna get massive power no matter what, is if you hit it like this and just uncoil into it with this rotational swing and slingshotting that paddle head forward and getting it going as fast as you can, which again can only be done with a relaxed motion to let that paddle basically drag back, and then it has to catch up to the rest of the body. That is, all the energy is rotating forward, and it just flies through contact. That's how it gets done. Again, I highly recommend you video yourself and throw it up on a screen, compare it to Katie's forehand here, and get to chipping away. And that's how you're going to build into those massive drive forehands that just rocket right by people and win points for you, or force them to cough up a weak shot and you just do some cleanup on that very next shot. 1, 2, boom, boom. Get out there and get to work on it. As helpful as we think the tips we're sharing in today's video are, there's more to achieving success on the doubles court. Want a complete A to Z step-by-step blueprint for playing winning doubles pickleball? Check out our dominating doubles system today. Go to doublesystem.com to learn all about it. If you enjoyed this video, please like, comment, and share. For more pro player pickleball tips, techniques, strategies, and more on how to take your game to the next level, please visit primetimepickleball.com. You'll find a clickable direct link in the video description below. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next one, and until then, happy pickling.